Hey guys, this is Steve Rosenthal from Powertown Wrestling, originally with Remco Toys back in the 80s. And this is Jared and Jimmy on Giving Me Back My Pro Wrestling.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling. I'm Dean Hill, see you at ringside.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling podcast. And today we are bringing out the Plastic Sheik, everybody. Yes, this is a Plastic Sheik episode. You know, it's been a long time coming. We've done all kinds of podcast interviews. We've done all types of podcast topics, managers, factions, whatever, you know, and finally have we decided to do the greatest pro wrestling action figures. Now, before you get all butthurt, because the list that we provide, again, this is just our opinion. So we think, to us, these are the greatest. We did not go out there and say, okay, Mattel shipped 4 million of this one, sold one on the side. You know, none of that has happened. We have not looked at percentages, numbers. Maybe you have, Sheik, but I have not. And I'll just say,
no, I haven't. This
is pure opinion, purely subjective opinion. So, you know, I mean, what do you think? I mean, are you happy to do this show, Jet?
Oh, I'm thrilled to do this show. You know, I'm a pretty decent collector. I'm not Matt Cardona or anything, but, you know, I have a pretty decent collection, and I have many more that I would love to add to my collection. It's just I can't break down enough to pay the prices for some of these things.
Well, name one. You brought it up. Name one that you cannot you would love to have.
Probably the Warlord LJN figure.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I've seen it with its arms, like his arms cut off, for like $400, and I'm like,
yeah.
I mean, I'm like, that's a little much. I love the figure, and it's. Well,
what's the most easily attainable LJN? What's
Hillbilly Jim? Hillbilly Jim.
So how about you just slap a couple Hillbilly Jim arms on the?
Yeah, I feel like I see a lot of Hillbilly Jims. There's a ton of those original Hogan LJNs. I mean,
yeah. You got to think they made 1 billion of them. You know that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, they knew Hogan was going to be their big seller. So
right. Yeah. I mean, he's kind of the guy that you know is going to be sold the most, but also he's the He-Man, he's the Duke, he's the you know, he's the action figure that everybody has to have because he's their leader. You know,
he's the Optimus Prime. He's
the Optimus Prime. Yeah, we could go on for days. He's the Lion-O. He's the daggone whatever. You know.
Yeah.
So you got to have the Hogan, and you may be surprised by my list, but we'll get into that in a minute. So before I guess let's do a little cleaning up let's do a little topics here. Obviously last week we did the Royal Rumble, you know, where we had Mike Jablonski on the show, and we went over the history of the Royal Rumble, our best way we can, and talked about our favorites and had some fun with that. And then, of course, we did our 2023 pick'ems, and the results are... So the Royal Rumble 2023 just happened, and I don't know, man. I don't know. I feel like I had higher expectations than what it gave, you know? I mean, they started with the Men's Rumble, and I just felt like that's the thing I want to see the most. So everything after that felt like, I don't know, I was just kind of bored after that. Even with the ending, but we'll talk about that in just a second. So obviously we did our pick'ems, and Mike beat us handily.
He gets the old attaboy.
Attaboy. So for the Royal Rumble 2023, Mike Jablonski gets the official Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling attaboy. Good job, Mike. Yeah. I mean, it could have went either way, except you and I just did horribly.
I'm going to look up the Vegas odds next time and just bet on, and just go with my picks that way.
Just go with Vegas.
Because I think you would have probably won every one of them if you went with the Vegas odds.
Probably. And maybe Mike did that. Who knows? But, I mean, I don't know.
I do feel like he went first in all the picks. Not saying that he would. That's the only reason he got him right. But we also wanted to create a different pick.
Right.
To be kind of a better listen for the podcast than picking just what he was going to pick.
Yeah, because all three of us would have tied,
Yeah.
Except with the women's. But anyway, so let's go ahead and go in the order that they happened on the show. So obviously the 30-man Royal Rumble happened first. Cody Rhodes returns, wins. Of course, Mike got that one. He picked Cody. You and I picked guys that weren't even in the match, Jared. So,
I feel like, and I read this somewhere, I can't remember where right now, but I feel like the reason that they did the order of the matches the way they did the men's first, because if they had done the Roman Reigns, Kevin Owens match first, then a lot of people would have expected Sami Zayn to have been in the Rumble.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know. I just went with the hot guy. I don't know. It's Cody Rhodes is definitely, he was the odds-on favorite in Vegas to win, or that's betting, sports booking, whatever.
Right.
And it was great. Cody winning was a super great moment to me. I loved it. The whole Rumble as a whole, probably B range.
Sure.
Something like that. No surprises, man.
None.
Like Booker T was the biggest surprise. And as much as I love Harlem Heat and Booker T, a guy that basically comes in and got eliminated after he got his little House of Fire moment, doesn't do a lot for me as far as surprises. I mean, I'm expecting at least one surprise. Maybe they couldn't pull them off. I don't know. Maybe it just wasn't in the cards.
I don't know. No guys from NXT were in the match. No rumored surprises. I personally feel like since they brought Cody out at 30th, I think they made a mistake by even announcing that he was going to be in it, honestly. Why would you do that? I mean, I don't think it was necessary for them to announce him being in that match prior to him showing up 30th, because that place would have blew the roof off if he would have, just been a cold intro to it.
And they would have, and people would have speculated that he was going to be in it, but they didn't need, they said they were happy with the surprises or everything that they were going to do. I was
not. They sucked. But,
I love the Royal Rumble too. And it wasn't like me and you kept texting back and forth. I was like, we're at number 15, no surprise. We're at number whatever, no surprise. And then Booker T came out and we're like, well, there's our surprise.
Booker T. Yeah. I mean, good for him. He can still go. That's great.
He still looks great.
Still looks amazing.
I mean,
but did you ever think that Booker T was going to win that match?
No. And I do like that Gunther got a push. I mean,
Gunther is way over, and
he's a made man now with that.
Yeah, he's made, and he's not only the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion, he is now a definitely made man. For sure. So good for Gunther, good for Cody. I wish Cardona, is he even going to be there now? Who knows?
He might make it at Mania. I heard he had a busy schedule up until at least February or March, maybe. So. Maybe he's going to come back at Mania, or maybe they're going to next Rumble or something like that. Maybe he's like, hey, give me another year.
Two things not really surprised by: that Rock and CM Punk weren't there. I jokingly picked The Rock because I just felt like I should have picked Cody. It would have put me in a better pace, but Sammy was my second choice. I just wanted something different. It may be spectacular, so I chose The Rock. Again, his mom was there, but
the sports books, though, did have The Rock and Sami Zayn tied for the next best odds after Cody. So
yeah, well, thanks.
We weren't far off.
Sportsbook. Anyway, so overall on that one, I agree with you. I think maybe like a C+ at best on that match for me. You know, it just honestly didn't have the surprises that it normally did. But yes, Gunther was a made man. He did awesome in it. I think, you know, Drew McIntyre and Sheamus looked great in it. Cody obviously won. I just wish they wouldn't have announced him being there. So that being said, Mike, you won that one. So the next one we're going to cover is the Midnight Bowl Cosmic Bowling Pitch Black Mountain Dew match with Bray Wyatt and LA Knight. You know, Shane McMahon is officially Uncle Howdy. And, you know, I don't know.
Hey, it's possible.
Maybe Jeff Hardy is. Who knows? But Bray was picked to win. Mike and I picked him. You picked LA Knight just to be different, probably. I don't think it did any favors for LA Knight, honestly, unfortunately. You know, he showed no fear going up to the match. And then when he was in the match, he was really afraid. And I don't know, man. I was kind of hoping that he would have a little more idiotic bravado or something. Does that make sense? You know, but
yeah, I mean, I was texting another friend and I said, you know, these gimmicky matches like this,
right?
They're never like spectacular, really. I mean,
yeah,
I will give you this though. I like the Pitch Black match way better than I did that red tent Hell in the Cell that him and Seth Rollins did.
Yeah, yeah. It was beautiful to look at.
Oh, visually stunning. I mean, like,
yeah, but yeah.
I mean, and I might get hate mail for this, but it's like Avatar, visually stunning, but the story was maybe leaving something lacking to me.
Right, for sure. And I mean, it was beautiful to look at, but again, it was Midnight Bowl. Come on, it was a church lock-in at the bowling alley, and you were, you know, skating or you're bowling, and it's Cosmic Bowl. I've heard it called or whatever. But anyway, you know, not much to say on that unless you have anything else to add.
Yeah. No, I mean, I figured that was going to happen. I just wanted to pick LA Knight because I thought there might be some kind of gimmicky finish.
Yeah.
I liked Bray's look was really cool.
Yeah,
he always does good with his look. So
yeah, and you know, LA Knight's trunks looked great too.
Oh,
they looked natural without the weird lighting and looked green with the lighting. It looked good. Yeah.
I'll still say it though. Bray Wyatt as the cult leader with the, you know, with his three Colossus should still be champion with those guys surrounding him. I mean, like, I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. You know, maybe Karrion Kross can go in there and, you know, there's some others they had initially picked for his Wyndham 6 or whatever. Maybe they don't do that Wyatt 6 or whatever, but we'll see. Uncle Howdy, I think, is definitely probably Bo Dallas, though, right? I mean,
that's what everybody thinks, but I don't know. Does Bo Dallas do spots like that? That's what I was trying to.
I mean, for the right amount of money, I would do that spot. So,
Triple H, call him up.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, the next match was Bianca versus Alexis. We saw another glimpse of a possible tie with Bray Wyatt in this match as Uncle Howdy kind of showed up through a screen or something. Correct? Am I correct on that?
Yeah, something like it was on the big screen. I don't really know.
Right. Yeah.
What you call what it was supposed to be like, but
no big surprise there. Bianca wins. You and Mike picked Bianca. You know, Alexis to me is on a path that's going to separate her off from Bianca. And I don't know. She's going to be kind of like a Bray Wyatt where she doesn't really need the belt. What are you thinking about this match?
Yeah, that's kind of why I didn't pick her. I mean, like, Alexa Bliss doesn't need the women's title if she's going to be involved in the Bray Wyatt stuff.
Right.
It just doesn't. I mean, it's like the Undertaker. He didn't need the strap. I mean, like,
right.
If you do these type of characters right, they don't need the belt to be over.
Yeah.
And that to me, you know, can separate a lot. I mean, I'm not saying this is going to sound bad on some people are going to hate this maybe, but Ric Flair's character needed the belt.
Right.
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 Hulk Hogan's character needed the belt.
Right.
But other characters, like, they can be that without it. And there's not many of them that have been, like, the guy without the belt. But, like, it's...
Right.
You know, Stone Cold was somewhat the guy without the belt, but he also had the belt quite a bit, too. So...
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I would like to see almost like a Ravens flock come out of this with Bray Wyatt. Him kind of picking some people, you know, that will bump for him and him kind of lead them and that kind of thing. But we'll see, you know.
And then a Goldberg show up to destroy the whole think.
Yeah. Literally, probably actually Goldberg will show up. But anyway. So the next match was the 30 women Royal Rumble. None of us got it correct. Shotzi, Naomi, you picked Naomi, Mike picked Shotzi, I picked Bailey, and each of us, obviously Naomi didn't show up.
Naomi wasn't even there, so my two picks, Sami Zayn, Shotzi was in it.
Yeah, okay.
My two picks, Naomi and Sami Zayn for the Rumbles, weren't even there in the matches.
Right.
So
right, I do think
maybe I should have picked Nia Jax. I mean, at least she was in it. I was kind of thinking they were going to have that add a girl to the bloodline, kind of just to grow their numbers or something like that.
Maybe, golly. Yeah.
My bad.
I don't know if I would put her in that feud, but I get what you're saying in that faction. But
just in the faction, it is.
Sure. Just to stand there, but that'll be fine. So, Mike picked Shotzi. That was a long shot. I thought Bailey was a fair bet. But again, thinking about it now, Bailey really doesn't have to win that to be considered an upper tier person. So Rhea, I think, needed that bump, to the top, because this is going to easily. Who do you think she goes after, Bianca or Charlotte?
Maybe Bianca. Hadn't her and Charlotte had a thing a few years ago?
Yeah, maybe
I think maybe she beats Bianca. Honestly,
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
Bianca's had it for how long? Over a year.
Probably.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm not women's wrestling expert. I don't know exactly how long they've had the title, but
yeah,
I think she may have had it almost a year and a half. So
sure. So it seems about right.
Yeah.
So I mean, it'd be about that time for her to drop the strap. And, I could see Rhea really kind of coming out of this. That was one of the bright spots, is Rhea Ripley's victory, I think, in that I feel like she's going to vault herself to a different level. And it'll be good to see that, because I think they need some fresh blood in those storylines, and she's kind of been the China to, that faction's DX, but at the same time, I just, I don't know. Edge is going to go into battle with them, so we'll see how all this pans out, because, Edge is kind of him and his wife right now. So
yeah,
we'll see. So, that was the 30 women Royal Rumble. In my opinion, probably the match of the night was the Roman Reigns versus Kevin Owens. And it really wasn't even the match itself. It was the finish where, officially Sammy was pushed too far, and Roman Reigns was telling him, they had Kevin Owens handcuffed to the ropes, and he's sitting there and he's basically out of it. And Roman is essentially calling Sammy out, saying, finish him. He hands him a chair, and, call back to the old Shield spot where Seth Rollins turned on, Roman. Roman turns his back. And there were so many cool layers in this, because first off, Sammy, he's not like 100% that he wants to do it. So he goes ahead and cracks Roman in the back. He chooses not to hurt his friend. Mm-hmm. He turns on the man he's been trying to please for 6 months or more now. And there were so many cool things about it. First of all, Sammy was twisted. Then almost the PTSD look on Roman's face when he's like down on the ground and he's like looking up like, are you kidding me? Like, it was almost like a bit of a weakness that I saw in Roman that was really good on his part as far as acting goes. And then you had the Usos, who Jimmy's been with him the entire time, right? He's been cool with Sammy the whole time. And Jimmy's standing there, and Jay, who took a while to warm up to Sammy. So right. I saw that Jay has got this ride or die where he's like, okay, it took me a while to warm up to him, but I really do like Sammy. He's a good dude. And so Jay is standing there like, what is going on? Like, he's really like bugged about, like, he's like, dude, that's the tribal chief. And all of a sudden, Sammy's just like, he's dropped the chair, and Sammy's like, I did what I had to do. I couldn't hit Kevin. I hate that I just did that. And bam, he gets super kicked in the face. Right. And, dude, it was a work of art. That last segment was the best part of the whole show, other than Cody winning. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To me, that was the best part of the show. What did you think about all that?
Yeah, I liked it. And, they're probably going to have something with Jay and Roman going forward, too. I don't know exactly how they're going to do that. Somebody said they could do like something with the tag titles. They could have Jimmy and Sammy wrestle to see who's the other half of the tag champs, since they kind of did like a Freebird rule the other day.
Right. Right.
I don't know if that's, I guess it's just people speculating.
That's very hypothetical, but not out of the realm of possibility.
Not out of the realm, right.
What I do like is that at least put Sammy with somebody. It's not Sammy versus Roman straight up.
And the bloodline.
Yeah. And it also, because, Kevin's going to be there now. Kevin's not,
there could be a 6-man match somehow with Jay, Sammy, and
but if this breaks
Kevin.
up the Usos, that's crazy because they're one of the best tag teams in wrestling,
Yeah.
And I'm never.
I don't know where. Was this done too early? I don't know if this was done. I mean, should Sammy kind of have been fully accepted first, lost that honorary thing, and then this happened? I don't know.
Who knows?
My worry is that something's going to get let down on the way to the road to WrestleMania if they have to do 2 storylines with Roman, one where Cody's coming to challenge him, or one where he's challenging Sammy or somebody.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Does that dilute too much to have?
I've heard this. He's going to wrestle Saturday and Sunday night, and he's going to have to defend both titles. The other thing is that there was rumors of Cody winning them, both of them, from him on Saturday night, and then Roman facing The Rock on Sunday night, because you obviously wouldn't need the title if you're facing The Rock, So,
but does that then diminish his battle versus The Rock if he has no titles?
It's all about the build-up, right?
Right.
So who knows?
I kind of have wondered if they might do this because I've been hearing that USA really has kind of wanted a main title on their show. Yeah. And Roman's been mostly SmackDown.
Right.
I was kind of wondering if they might somehow unify the 2 belts for Roman. Have him wrestle Sammy or somebody, and then they create kind of a tournament to determine Cody's opponent for the new Raw title, let's say, at WrestleMania. That's just a theory. Nothing to back it up. But
well, if it had my druthers, if you're the champion, I think you could be Monday and Friday anywhere you need to be. When it was Monday and Tuesday, that's a different story. It's Monday and Friday. You're the champion. I think 1 title for the whole company. To me, that is where it should be. It should be the WWE title. They don't need 2 titles. It's just, I'm sorry. They can have the Intercontinental, the US, the tag, all that's fine. I don't care about those. What I think, though, is there needs to be 1 ultimate title in WWE, and they need to get rid of the Universal because I just, I think it's just a dumb name for a title anyway.
It's a dumb name for a title, too. You're right.
So, anyway, well, we all picked Roman in that match. I don't think there was any surprise there. But, overall, give your grade of the entire premium live event.
B.
B?
I like it. Not a B+, but a B.
Yeah, I think B. Me too. I mean,
I think that it got a B because Cody won. Most of the matches kind of went the way we thought they would go. Not the way we picked, but the way we thought they would go. So
yeah. Well, I think that's it, man. So anyway, like we said, Mike Jablonski, good job, buddy. So don't be
attaboy.
Don't be so pissed off. You got an attaboy. Good job. All right. So our next topic, obviously, it's a couple weeks old now, but to pass by it, it'd be too hard not to. But of course, Jay Briscoe of the Briscoes has passed away. It's very sad stuff. The other night on AEW Dynamite, Mark Briscoe wrestled Jay Lethal in a definitely tear-jerking match. Did you get to watch that match, Jet?
I did watch the match. I specifically watched Dynamite as it was happening, kind of to watch that match.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be a little bit of a heel towards Warner Brothers Discovery here, and say they should have let a better thing been done the week before. They should have let a video package been done the week before, instead of just a little placard at the front and everybody with their armbands on.
Right.
And it's a shame. I know that he said. They had a post on Twitter that they didn't like, and he'd apologized for it.
10 years.
He'd apologized for it. I mean, I guess those people at Warner Brothers Discovery have never done anything in their past that they don't want people to discover. I mean,
Discovery.
Discovery. It's just a shame that it couldn't have been more the week before. It was a nice tribute his brother, I think, was emotional. I mean, and why wouldn't he be? Jay Lethal was extremely emotional. So
yeah,
but it was a good moment.
Yeah, it was a good moment. Obviously, I'm a fan of the Briscoes as far as a modern day tag team, and they're brothers, and, they are very close in age. And, it kind of hits home a little bit, the concern that all brothers have that are close, that, that one day one of us will be here and the other won't,
Right.
And that's a very real possibility in everything. And one thing that, I talked to Wolfie D about it, and I said to him, man, it's crazy. We talked about this on our show. And I said, it's crazy that in the next day you can be gone. He's like, dude, you can be gone in the next minute.
Yeah, the next minute.
And that's just something that's crazy. We're never promised tomorrow. And that's something you've got to believe in your heart, because it's true. You can be gone in the blink of an eye, and you don't want anything to be left unsaid. And that is something that, I think should be everyone's New Year's resolution for 2023. We just passed January technically, so it's still early. You can still squeeze another one in, and I think that would be a good one to do for sure. So,
yeah. You don't want to, and most of the time when we have, falling outs or whatever with people, or hard feelings with people, it's really something minor in the grand scheme of things. Yeah. And you got to think, is it really worth cutting that person out of your life for that?
Anyway, our condolences go to the Pugh family, Mark and Jay Briscoe, especially his kids. I know they've been
a long road to recovery. They have a long road to recovery from their injuries. So
yeah. Can you imagine being those little girls and waking up from the surgery to find out the worst news in the world?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's terrible. I mean, to have to, they have it tough. They're probably going to tell them they probably told them, I'm sure, about.
Yeah. Anyway, but our prayers and condolences and thoughts and all the good thoughts that we can give go out to that family, and I hope you all share that with them. I think one thing you can say is the wrestling world has really embraced this family, and that's one good thing about sometimes a very toxic fan base. So I'm happy to see that how much they've that. So speaking of fan base, and this one may be toxic only if you eat it. Today we are, of course, as we said earlier, talking the greatest pro wrestling action figure, Sheik. And like I said, we grabbed you off the wall. We took you out of your mint on card packaging.
Oh, that hurts my heart.
And we brought you to this show as our expert in the world of action figures. So I say this, let's take a little break and we'll come right back for the greatest pro wrestling action figures after these messages.
Hey guys, this is Wolfie D from PG-13. Check out my podcast, Live and in Color with Wolfie D, every Monday at noon. We're talking Memphis, we're talking ECW, WCW, WWF, everywhere that I've been. We even have some great guests, some Hall of Famers on the show with us. Every Monday, Live and in Color with Wolfie D.
This is The Big Picture, Michael Jablonski. Don't forget to tune in every week to Jablonski's Pissed Off on the Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling YouTube channel.
The month in this sport, he's gonna tell you all about it. He doesn't care what you think, you're gonna hear all about it. Mike Jablonski, he's so pissed off. Mike Jablonski, he's so pissed off. Mike Jablonski, he's so pissed off. He's pissed off.
Action figure.
All right, we are back to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling with the greatest pro wrestling action figures.
Action action figure.
And we are, of course, going to do this in a top 10 list. So with that being said, you've said this before on a previous episode, without action figures, we don't know if we are as big a pro wrestling fan as we became, because we watched it, and I remember you and I both at the same time basically being mesmerized by wrestling on TV. But without those action figures that we could hold in our hand, that was like a revelation to me when you said that. I was like, you know what? I think he's right. I don't know that we could have done this without action figures. I mean, I think that still rings true, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's, as I've got older, it's the action figures. I still, even when I wasn't really, when I didn't have a kid or didn't have it, I would always use the excuse of, hey, let me go over here and check out these wrestling figures.
Right.
And, looking at them over the years, wish I had bought some over the years that I didn't.
That you saw and you're like, I'll get them next time.
I'll get it. Why do I need that? Basically, I'm a grown man.
Yeah.
But,
well, you were kind of thinking what I kind of think, but you know what? I really do enjoy pro wrestling action figures. Now, the one thing that I will point out in the differences in our list is I think you'll see where my collecting or enjoyment kind of stopped in a sense. And I think maybe your list will maybe show the continuation of that. But that's what makes you the Plastic Sheik, right?
Right. Absolutely.
And I mean, it's funny to think about, but, I just recently saw that Power Town is going to be releasing, Matt Cardona and Brian Myers action figures, which, that could open up a whole world of conversation there as far as maybe their Super 7 deal is over. I never was really impressed with the Super 7, especially Brian Myers' sculpt looked horrible. The bodies looked good, but Super 7 to me is very good at cartoon characters. They're top notch. But when it came down to facial and like real life faces, I don't know, man. But again, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, you think they didn't have maybe the scan technology that Mattel has or anything like that?
Right.
I don't know. Jazzwares does a pretty good job with it. I was, the skin tones on some of the first ones were a little off on the Jazzwares, but the facial features seem to always be
right.
Pretty decently detailed.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, maybe there's a lack there. Was it one of the Good brothers, one of their figures, Super 7, didn't look real good either?
Carl Anderson, or was it Doc?
I think it was Doc Gallows.
Yeah. Well, that most recent Andre in the yellow trunks, have you seen that?
No.
It's Take a Dump Andre. He's got it's almost, face that Doc, you speak of Doc Gallows, that face he would make when he was Festus.
Yeah.
Like that, dumb, look to him. They've got Andre doing that face, with his tongue showing. It's just not a good sculpt. And honestly, I feel like it may be the death knell for wrestling action figures as far as Super 7 goes, unless they get that figured out. Now, on the other hand, Power Town, that's a whole other question. First of all, Steve, where's our Plastic Sheik action figure? We talked about that on your episode. Now, 2, you're a little more cautious with this, but I don't care to get a little fired up. I don't want to ruin any kind of relationship that we have with Power Town. I would never want to do that. But is this a little bit of a cash grab for them? I just don't want this to take them off their path. You know what I mean?
That's what I was kind of confused when I heard that they were, and I love the Major Wrestling Figure podcast. I mean, they probably boosted my collector side of me a little more when I started listening to them.
Sure.
But they have a ton of figures. I thought part of the Power Town message was getting people who don't have, who aren't working, who are dead and gone, let their family, kind of get some stuff off their name, or let these guys that don't have a retirement plan, get some money. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe Power Town just so successful with that first series, sale that they are just going a little bit, they're saying, well, we can sell these too. So
that's a very positive look, but I'm almost thinking that maybe they weren't successful.
And maybe that's the thing you don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't quite understand. Here's my thing. Outside of some of the selling points of the other, I always thought no matter how much of a wrestling fan you are, Luthez is going to be a tough sell.
For sure.
Even Vern is going to be a tough sell.
For sure.
Just because, even I don't even know if I have any recollection of ever seeing Vern do anything in ring, even watching the AWA on ESPN or anything like that. So you're talking about people who are your prime collector age, which I would think would be like 25 to 55, somewhere in there, that are probably not going to have much recollection of Vern Gagne in the ring, or definitely not Lou Thesz.
Right.
So then you're leaning on Magnum and Kerry Von Erich and
Brody.
I
would guarantee Brody's their top seller.
But let me ask you this though too: all three of those guys didn't wrestle past what? What was the last year one of those guys wrestled?
Well, I mean, 87 was Magnum. I'm not 100% positive. 90s for Kerry.
91, 92, maybe.
Brody was 88, I think.
Yeah. So I'm hoping and I'm excited about all the figures I'm getting from Powertown.
Sure.
I'm just wondering, like some of the names we heard from Greg for the second series, to me, those are bigger names that would probably sell better.
Right. But, and by the way, he dropped those.
Yeah, we didn't ask. Yeah, he dropped them.
I mean, you said, is there any hint of a future release?
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah,
and he was like, well, for season 2, we're thinking Rock and Roll Express, Wahoo, Gorgeous George.
Yeah.
You know, it was just like Koloffs. It's just like, okay.
Tell us more.
Yeah, I love it. What about season 3?
Yeah.
You know, come on. But yeah, I mean, I hope the best for Powertown, and I do. I want them to succeed. I just don't want them to go off of their brand. Again, it just concerns me a little that maybe this is something that, you know, obviously the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast, they're going to sell action figures. That's what they do, and people love them for it. To tag team with Powertown is a genius idea. Nothing wrong with that. I just don't know that we need another Matt and Brian action figure set again. Now, if you didn't buy the Super 7, I would recommend highly buying the Powertown line. From what it looks like, I think Powertown is going to be one of those that is considered highly, highly detailed and high quality. That's what it looks like to me. So the one thing is I hope they never back off of that. And the other thing is I hope they stay true to their first initial thoughts of getting the name out there and getting the action figure for those that haven't had the action figure. And we'll see. I guess time will tell on that, right? So
yeah, definitely that. I mean, I definitely want to see the names of people in my childhood rather than people who are my same age or younger.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, that pretty much can be that on that. And we love Powertown. We're supporting them 100%. And as that being said, you know, one day when Major Wrestling is saying, man, that Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling podcast, those guys really, they tell us everything we need to know about action figures. maybe we'll say that for them as well. So let's go ahead and I say this. Let's do our 10 through 6 of the top 10 greatest wrestling action figures.
Action figure.
And so Sheik, obviously this is your area of expertise, and I think you need to start us out here with number 10.
So this list is hard for me. As you can imagine,
lists are hard. Lists are hard, man.
Lists are hard. But as a collector, I mean, like, you know, like if I was doing top 10 wrestling moves of all time, I could be like, well, I don't do those on a regular basis, so I can take away some of my involvement. But as a collector, it's a little tougher. Yeah. So starting at number 10, I'm going to have a tie at number 10, so I could get 11 figures in my top 10.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough.
So the first one is the WCW Toy Biz DDP, where he's like, it's not very good for wrestling, like wrestling with the figure, but it makes the diamond cutter sign. And
I know that one.
Over his head. So
yeah, that was a good looking figure, kind of a skinnier style.
Yeah, but that's the way that style was.
Style was made, and nothing wrong with that, and it looked good, and honestly, it looked like DDP, you know?
Yeah.
So there was no question on that. And that's a good figure. I don't remember much from that line other than seeing them in the store. And I do remember there was a 4 Horsemen set I think that was made by that same company, that Ric Flair just really didn't look like Ric Flair, but it had Benoit, it had Malenko, and it had Mongo in it. And, you know, a cool line. And obviously I had that for years, but I don't know what happened to it. Did I give that to you or did I? I don't know.
I don't have it, so I don't think so, because I have everything I've had.
Yeah, I know. You were our true link to the past on that stuff. So yeah.
And then my tie for 10th place with that is the Ultimate Edition Ultimate Warrior. He has the WCW version. It's the he has the duster that has like the NWO
spray paint,
the MWO like tombstone on it and everything like that.
Yeah, and that's good.
So it's a great figure. I love it. I bought it actually at a Toys R Us in Canada.
Nice.
After Toys R Us in America had closed, in the United States it closed. So
nice. I like that.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, that is cool. Yeah. So, you know, they don't do wrong there with the Ultimate Editions. I mean, is there a bad one that you can think of?
I mean, the only thing I can think of, there might be some that weren't necessary at the point, but like, I don't know, some of the people they put out there, and I can't even think of a name right off maybe Ronda Rousey. They have like an Ultimate Edition of her. I'm like, well, does she really deserve an Ultimate Edition? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the one thing that I've had issues with of any of the current figures is the face sculpts for Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan especially. I don't know that they always hit the mark on there. They look more like right now Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan whereas with the Ultimate Warrior, and again, I know he's passed, but I feel like the Ultimate Warrior face sculpts have looked way better than the Hogan and the Flair. They always just look like the older versions of them, but you know.
Is that because the paint like hides it though, kind of?
Maybe. I don't know.
I'm not sure either. Maybe.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like they've kind of missed the mark on those. But anyway, that's awesome. So mine is, again, these are just, I just truly kind of tried to make a list the best I could with the figures that I absolutely loved. And I tried to spread it across the lines that I knew the most. So my number 10 is the Hasbro Warlord. And that action figure to me, if I think of the Hasbro line, I love the Ric Flair. The Road Warriors were awesome. The Demolition was great. You know what I mean? Like Skinner, Razor Ramon had a great action figure in that line with the black vest and the red trunks. But at the same time, to me, my favorite Hasbro, if I had to own one of them, it would be the Warlord with the silver mask, the Phantom of the Opera kind of deal with the black shoulder pad kind of thing. It's just such a cool figure. It's such a cool, you know, unfortunately they didn't do a lot with the Warlord, where if I were Vince McMahon, I would have done my best to book him against whoever was the top, because to me, he just seemed like such a great big villain. But anyway, that figure is just so, I know they use that word toyetic, but it just looks so good. It just looks so good.
You know, there's a lot of those out there that are like, I mean, I don't know about a lot. I guess I was exaggerating the numbers I know, but I know there is a big thing in the fan community where people like custom made a Stone Cold out of that. So they X-Acto knifed the mask off kind of and made like a Stone Cold out of him.
Wow. Holy cow.
But I haven't heard of that figure being super rare either. So
yeah. Well, I don't know. That's just that's my favorite Hasbro out of all of them. So anyway, well, what's your number 9, Jack?
My number 9 is
another tie.
Is another tie, so I can get to it.
You're going to end up with 20 on your list.
Yeah. Well, if we get to honorable mentions, we'll be here a while. But
yeah.
So this is a figure I would love to have, but also falls in that. I didn't name this one a while ago because I didn't want to ruin the surprise of it being on my list. But number 9 is the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive Roddy Piper G.I. Joe figure, 3 3/4 inch, 20. I think maybe had to do with the 25-year, or was it San Diego Comic-Con or Joe Con? I can't remember.
Something like that. Yeah.
Anyway, it was an event that they were at, and it was like it's probably not the best like accurate looking of Roddy Piper necessarily, but it's a great figure. But it routinely goes for $1,000 plus because most of them are signed.
Yeah.
So And then you could find ones that aren't signed that are like $750. It's like, ugh.
Do you know the story of that figure? I don't. I'm just curious because I know that they had, Sergeant Slaughter. I know that there was talks of having a Rocky action figure from Sylvester Stallone.
That's where Big Boa
came from. But do you know, was he planned earlier on and they didn't make it, or?
I haven't heard anything like that. I know that they linked his story with Destro's.
Right.
His Scottish.
Yeah. Which makes sense. Yeah.
They linked his heritage with Destro, but I don't know. I've never really heard if they had meant to do that earlier.
Right.
I mean, it'd have been a cool idea. It'd have been a cool idea if they had another
wrestling
wrestler in there when G.I. Joe, especially, and Piper would have been a great one. I mean,
he's perfect for it if you think about it. That's a great action figure. I've never seen one up close.
I've never seen it up close. I've only seen it on eBay. So
I would. That would be one definitely that you would be tempted to purchase at a good price. So
Does that count? G.I. Joe. It's a G.I. Joe, but it's
a wrestling. It definitely counts. Absolutely counts. You'll see why in a bit.
Okay.
Number 9 for me is a little different, but he's also a great villain. He's also a great hero to a city in the middle of America, but he's a villain everywhere else. And, if there weren't King George and if there weren't the Elvis Presley, if there weren't, Babe Ruth or whoever else were kings of their sports, this guy would be the one true king, is Jerry Lawler and the Jakks bone crunching action figure. To me, there were so many of those that did not hit the mark. And I feel like this one actually looks like Jerry Lawler. It's not perfect because none of the line was perfect,
No, yeah.
But at the same time, I just love that action figure. I love the way it looks. And it's the first King action figure as far as I know. It's the first Jerry Lawler action figure. And again, I'm a huge Lawler fan. And to know that it's, to know that was his first or one of the first, and it's just such a cool looking figure. Plus that series, again, great action figure.
Wonder why they didn't get a Hasbro of him.
That's a good question.
When did he come to WWE?
So it would have probably been around 92, I think.
It's whenever Bret Hart won King of the Ring.
92, 93, because
I guess maybe he'd have been near the end of Hasbro, but hey, there you go. Mattel, get us a retro of him as the Hasbro form.
Yeah. Have they not already? Have they not?
That would be awesome.
Because you would have it if they did.
I would have it if they did.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That's a no-brainer, seriously.
Mattel, if you're listening, get on that.
Because one thing about Lawler I don't think people understand is I don't know if they have, other than The Miz maybe, I don't know if they have a better traveling spokesperson than Jerry Lawler. Jerry Lawler has been that for years. And I think The Miz could easily slide into that role of being the traveling spokesperson like he's done in the past. So, I don't know where they see The Miz right now as far as legacy goes, but I think he's got that kind of that ability.
Let me say something about The Miz. I'm expecting them, and maybe they'll do it. I can't believe they haven't let him break the Intercontinental record yet.
Yeah,
especially because it's Jericho's, right? Doesn't Jericho have it?
Right.
I figure they would want to take that from Jericho.
Yeah,
but I could be wrong.
What's his name? Is getting probably pretty close to Gunther. He's got it for a minute. I think he's had it for 700 and some days.
No, I'm talking about number of times won.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I got you.
I think like Jericho's like 8 or 9, and I think Miz is like 7 or 8.
Yeah. Well, they're weird because Cena's a 16-time, and that just doesn't feel right to me. But
no.
Anyway. So, all right. Well, what's your number 8, brother?
Well, it was a little bit of segue with something I mentioned a while ago. It's a Bret Hart King of the Ring, Mattel ringside exclusive, where Bret Hart's got his crown and everything like that. It's a pretty good looking figure.
Great looking figure. Very cool figure. Does it have the robe too?
Yeah, he's got the robe and the crown in there and everything like that. It's a really nice figure, and it was a cool moment. Bret, and that's when I think when Jerry Lawler came out and like crushed the crown and all that stuff. So
yeah,
that's a cool moment.
Great moment.
The Hitman has several action figures. A very cool one of the Hitman, and just I like not weird stuff, but I like unique stuff, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
But there's a series of WCW Toy Biz that had the Hitman as a hitman, like a gangster style hitman.
Yeah, I remember those. Yeah,
and Chris Jericho is a lion tamer, and Luger. They had a Luger and a Goldberg, and I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, Goldberg was like a construction worker, maybe, or something.
Maybe it was. I was trying to think what Luger was. Maybe he was like a kind of like a
bad wrestler.
It was something. I think he maybe had like the executioner mask on because he was like
something like that,
tortured or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. You're right. Yeah, yeah.
Those are just unique. I may have to get those one of these days.
Yeah, because that was a weird series. I definitely remember that. So
yeah, but I don't remember what the Goldberg was. Though it'll come to me in a minute, and I'll just shout it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's cool. The Hitman, to me, I talked to Lawler back on the Live and in Color podcast back early on. It was one of our first guests, and it was just like we had Ricky Morton and we had Jerry the King Lawler, and I was just like, holy crap, where do we go next?
Yeah, where do you go? Where do you go from here?
Yeah, no. Not to mention, all these other shows, but to me, I wish Jerry, because I brought up I didn't get to ask King too many questions. It was a little bit of a quick interview, but King, I brought up his past resume of all, and I wanted to talk about the Bret Hart feud with him, and unfortunately we didn't really get to talk too much about it because King kind of leans in on stuff, like he talks about certain things, but he's always going to bring up the Andy Kaufman, and for good reason. But I'm a little tired of the Andy Kaufman story. I love the angle, I love it all, but I'm a little bit exhausted on that storyline. I think probably most people are, but in the long run, though, Lawler and Bret Hart had a great feud that Lawler's quick wit and Bret's execution in the ring, and King can go too. So, actually what's funny is they kind of fight for number 4 on my Mount Rushmore. So, that being said,
it's fitting, right?
Yeah, it's fitting. It definitely is. So anyway, so my number 8 is, and this was kind of a tough one for me, but I had to go for it because I just thought of the list that I could not remove. And I love this line. We had these action figures as kids. I don't know that we loved them as much as I love them now, but it's the fabulous ones from Remco. Stan Lane and Steve Kern, especially Steve Kern, now that I actually know Steve. And yeah, I'm dropping names. I get it. But Steve is just, so cool, so knowledgeable, and he is one of those guys that's an absolute treasure in the business when it comes down to it. So when it comes down to it, I'm a big fan of the Fabs and the Fabulous Ones Remco line. I mean, honestly, they're one of the ones that did not look too far off from the actual
they look pretty good
people, So
yeah, I love that line. I love that tag team. They're one of my honorable mention numbers, so I don't have to mention that one later. So, but yeah, they look great, and I guess if I had my rathers after hearing your interview with Steve Kern, they both kind of more matched than they were different things.
Right.
So it'd been cool if they would have had them in both red or both white.
Right.
But it's cool. They're cool either way.
They are, and I think they did that probably make you buy 2 packs so they could, pop the head off.
Probably so.
We're going to use white tonight or red tonight. But, they had the bow ties, the pictures they made. If y'all just look up Fabulous Ones pictures, they are very, they are very of their times. And, it's not something I really like to look at, but it's funny in the long run. They sold a lot to the women in the room, and I know that. So, there's a story that Steve used to do that they would keep count of their pictures, and he would drop it on the floor of the locker room just so that Jerry Lawler would see how many pictures they sold. So it's so funny. Yeah, but that's so Steve, because Steve is just a complete ribber, So anyway, I want to talk to Stan Lane sometime before it's all said and done, because that would complete the combo there. So anyway, what is your number 7, Jut?
My number 7 is Arn Anderson, Galoob, bald spot or not.
You got to go bald spot.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me.
Sure.
I'll take either one, but I love Arn. If you've listened to this enough, he's one of my favorites, and I love the figure. I mean, I think I have both trunk versions. There's a white trunk and a burgundy like trunk. So I have both versions, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. I don't know if I have both versions with like a bald spot or not, but I do love the Galoob line. You know, the Galoob and the LJN to me are perfect for people like me that are collectors that, you know, I'm not going to get them out and bang them around, or am I?
Right. Yeah.
But, you know, we can set them up in a nice little case or something like that, or on a shelf, and they look great just standing there statuesque. So,
right. You know what? It bugs the crap out of me when I watch videos online. Like if I watch a YouTube video or if I listen to a podcast, like recently Jericho said on his podcast that the Galoob line was not the greatest. That bothers me. We had an old host of this show,
and Dan,
that knocked the Galoob action figures. And to me, that just pisses me off because
you wonder why he's not here.
Action figures.
Well, that may be one of the reasons, but we won't get into the rest.
I'm lazy.
But anyway, that being said, the Galoob action figures I thought were great. In fact, I think they were better than the LJN when it came down to playability. Now, again, will they ever hold a place in my heart? We were older at that time of the Galoob action figures coming out, so we weren't really playing with action figures as much, in my mind, as when we were with the LJN. I don't know. But had the LJN been the size of the Galoob, dude, I mean, that's ultimate playability right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Plus,
and the Galoob were similar size to the Hasbro, so you could match them up versus each other, and it didn't look terrible.
It didn't look terrible. Of course, the Hasbro was much more cartoonish, which is fine. Nothing wrong with
WWF,
that.
though.
That's totally WWF. And then Galoob, to me, they looked more like the actual wrestler. And, you know, we could get off on Galoob, but I think Galoob is honestly so underrated, and for some reason why they're so hated, it pisses me off, because to me it's just unfortunate, because that's just, to me, they were very underrated. So
don't listen to me talk if you don't like Galoob. So.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, we might even do a Galoob show sometime. So just, buckle up, Buttercup. So my number 7, this one I just got for Christmas, actually. So I do have a small collection. This may surprise you. Most of it is funneled to me by the Plastic Sheik. But my number 7, I just got actually the Steve Kern, which is my number 8. But my number 7 is the other one I got, and that is the Iron Sheik LJN. Now, there probably will be more LJN on my list, but when it comes down to the looks, I just love this action figure. The pants, the boots, the mustache, the form, the face. It's just evergreen. And I feel like it's also one of those action figures that seems to hold up really well as far as the paint job. And I don't know how they did that pant design, but my God, it's just the Iron Sheik, man. I mean, you see that and you're like, that is the Iron Sheik, and that you look at something like the Tito Santana LJ and you're like, is that a melted blob? Like his face looks like he's crying, that kind of thing. And
the Tito Santana, they reused it for the Strike Force, basically.
Right. And it wasn't even the modern looking Tito Santana. It was like the Intercontinental title Tito Santana. But the Iron Sheik to me is one of the tops. Again, I think the early run of LJN, their facial and the way they looked are based off the cartoon. That's just my opinion. But with this one, the LJN, the Iron Sheik is so good. So anyway, that's my number 7. So
that's great, brother. I love it. The Iron Sheik. I always wondered why they didn't do like the headscarf for him.
Right. Because they did that with all the others,
They had plenty of those with other people. They had, and you can say, oh, it was too early. Well, no, they had Roddy Piper with the kilt.
Right.
I don't
even
really
if it was rubber,
Yeah, no, it could be totally rubber. It would have been fine. Maybe they just didn't want to get into that. I don't know. But it was... It was missing from it. I think, I bet somebody out there makes them that you could put on them.
I bet it might be,
Yeah, but it looks great too. Yeah.
Look up Sin Bodie. I'm pretty sure.
Sin Bodie might do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Future guest. We'll have Sin on sometime for the Sheik's episodes. So he will.
He'd have been a good one for this.
Yeah. Good idea, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right, let's call him up right now.
Here.
Yeah, just
top in the 6, and the remaining 6.
Yeah. So, with that being said, what's your number 6, brother?
My number 6 is it's probably in the league of haven't haven't spent the money on it yet, but it's been pretty reasonable at times. I just have lost some eBay bids over it before, so it's going to be in my collection, I think, one of these days. But it's the later series Hulk Hogan, LJN, with the red tank top and the yellow trunks, where he's like posed, like flexing. It's just such a better likeness of Hulk as far as his size. Like the original LJN is great,
right?
And it means so much to me because it's one of the first figures I remember, but it doesn't have the size of Hulk. It doesn't have the muscle mass of Hulk. And that later series, they had a white tank top version and red tank top version. I like the red one better, just preference. Doesn't mean that I'm right. Again, it's all opinion.
Right.
But I think it matched Hulk grill. I think the face sculpt looked better. It was less cartoony, like you said. It was more accurate as far as like a realistic, and just the bulk of him just was better. So.
Yeah, no, it looks great. It's a great action figure. It is. It's funny. They kind of Hulk Hogan is hit or miss sometimes, isn't he? Like you can really have a good one or you can have a bad one. I know there was one figure that his body up top, the tan didn't match the legs or something, or it may be in older versions as it would age, it would end up not matching. But anyway, was
that one of the Hasbros or something?
I think it was one of the Hasbros I'm thinking of. But yeah, great looking figure. Great. I mean, you got to have a great Hogan, and Hogan, any wrestling collection that doesn't have a Hogan in it, you're not really collecting much.
Yeah, seriously.
So yeah, I mean, number 6 for me, and this one, I think for this one, we collected all of these lines. We had Hasbro, we had Galoob, we had Remco, we had LJN, but out of all of them, I think we probably had more of these than we had of any of the other lines, and that is the Kinkeshi Kinukiman Japanese Muscle Men. Now, the Kinkeshi is an extensive and popular line of collectible erasers, an instance of the modern Japanese popular culture institution of keshi. The keshi it includes are monochromatic and derived from the Kinukiman anime and manga franchise, whose primary motif is professional wrestling. The line was launched in Japan in 1983 and licensed in 1985 for the American market as MUSCLE, reflecting Kinukiman's English title of Muscle Man. Muscle used a harder rubber than Kinkeshi. Its U.S. sequel, The Ultimate Muscle, had a small release of about 20 Kinkeshi, though a larger run of figures using a plastic softer than Muscle, but not eraser-like, was released exclusively in the USA. We called them Pink Men, but we had so many of these, and they were like space alien wrestlers, and I don't know, some of them were amazing, some of them were like, what is this? This is like it's like a dreidel. There was one that was like a robotic dreidel, but then some of them were, I know that some of them were based off of Terry Funk, Dusty Rhodes, Hulk. I mean, there was a lot of them. There was even one that was an interviewer that you and I called former U.S. District 9 Congressman Rick Boucher.
Oh, goodness.
But anyway, we were,
good times.
Yeah, we love those action figures. They had the little ring belt you could wear that was a ring, but also a collector's belt. And yeah, the cool thing about these is they were pretty inexpensive to get, I remember. And you could get like 4 or 5 in a pack, maybe. And
we used to get them at Hex.
Hex, yes, we loved Hex. So give us back some Hex. How about this? Our next show we create is going to be called Give Me Back My Hex. But I mean, we can find them everywhere, but yes, you're right. Getting them at Hex was the best. So anybody that remembers Hex, you go ahead and like this, give us a like and rate and review and say, I remember Hex. So anyway, yeah, Jack, what do you remember about the Muscle Men?
I remember just the little ring thing that had like almost a little holder you held them in and you fight with them. And I mean, I just remember some of them were very weird as far as like, what are you supposed to be? Like one of them had like spikes all over him.
Right.
One of them was maybe just like it almost reminds you of like a Lego brick or something like that. Yeah, exactly. It seems to me, and I've heard that those were supposed to be fully like wrestlers, and they couldn't get licensing, or licensing fell through, or something.
Gotcha.
And I don't know what company, if it was New Japan, All Japan,
right,
or if it was going to be an American company. I don't remember. But I do know that later they, and I think I gave you a pack of them sometime, that they did come out with WWF like Legends in those lines. There's like 16 or something like that they produced. So it's pretty cool that they actually ended up doing that later, especially if that was what it was meant to be in the first place. So
yeah, I agree that WWE licensed it, and I know the package you got me had the Iron Sheik and Ric Flair and maybe Mean Gene and somebody else. But yeah, I was happy with that one because it had Sheik and Flair in it, which are two of my all-time faves. So yeah, but anyway, man, I just feel like, they aren't necessarily what you would say like, hey, Hasbro, Mattel, bone crunching, Remco, whatever, but they were wrestling action figures, and we love them, and that's why they're number 6 on my list. So before we, go into number 5, I say let's take a quick break, listen to one of our buddies' podcast commercials, and maybe a couple of our buddies' podcast commercials, and we'll be right back with 5 through 1 of the greatest pro wrestling action figures. Be right back.
If you're a pro wrestling fan, there's something for everyone at the Cheap Heat TV Podcast Network. From the Pro Wrestling Discussion Show, Cheap Heat TV Live, to the interview show, the Jackson Interaction Podcast with the king of all wrestling media, Gene Jackson, to the silliness of the Whitey Jenkins Show, and the brand new Zip, Xander's Irresistible Podcast with Charles Anders. You can check them all out and much more over at cheapheattvlive.com.
All right, we are back with more from the Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling podcast. Thank y'all for sticking around. Of course, we are doing the greatest pro wrestling action figures. And again, we've got Sheik. He's come out of the packaging and he's no longer mint on card, but we've got him here with us. And Sheik, I tell you what, since you went first last time, I'm going to go first on this one. How's that sound?
Go ahead, brother. Sounds great.
All right. So my number 5. Now, 5 through 1 is tough because, heck, 10 through 1 was tough. But 5 through 1, to me, I wanted to make these super important to where they could not be questioned by anybody. And some of y'all are going to be like, this guy is a wrestling action figure idiot. But this one, I don't think anybody can question. If you do, you can kiss my British Bulldog. How about that? The British Bulldogs LJN.
Oh, man, I love them.
You got to have them together. They're like the daggone Crimson Twins from pro wrestling. Tomax and Zaymont from G.I. Joe. But these action figures, you brought it up on a previous episode, and I'm glad you still feel the same way that I feel about this, guys, because to me, they were like us, man. They were two action figures. They looked alike, even though they were separate. They did look like they're people. This is one of the two that I feel like actually did look like Davey Boy and did look like Dynamite Kid. Now, the one was not as jacked as Dynamite, nor was it as jacked as Davey Boy, but they wore the same gear. They had the maroon tights on, and they just looked so good. And honestly, they were probably our first tag team that we had, true tag team in LJN, if I'm not mistaken by that.
Yeah, I remember them meaning a lot to us. I mean, I remember them meaning like, I don't know, we loved them, and like, I can't remember which one. I was going to say I favored Davey Boy and you favored Dynamite, but I don't know if that's right. It maybe you have it backwards there.
That sounds about right, honestly. Yeah,
it could be backwards though.
Yeah,
but they were, I don't know, just a great set, and they're in my honorable mentions.
Yeah,
I mean they were in the list that just got cut out of the top 10 that. They just missed it, and it's not easy for me. So
I know, and but the Bulldogs, to me, they're such a great tag team too. They're definitely one of my top 5 favorite tag teams, and they are. you sent me a text the other day about, hey, we need to do this in a watch along. And it was that Rock and Roll Express British Bulldogs match so good. And it's really good. It's like 30 minutes long. It's not a short match, but it is a great match. And it's funny because I think the Bulldogs are kind of the heels in that one, as far as it looked like that, because Ricky was taking the heat for most of it. But anyway,
it's hard not to be the heels against Rock and Roll, though. So
yeah, exactly. It's like, how can you do that? So, but it depends on who you're pulling for. But the Bulldogs to me are always going to be one of my tops, and I love their LJN. So, what's your number 5, brother?
My number 5 is, I love the figure. First of all, it's, people are going to be like, oh, it shouldn't be your number 5, but I love the figure. And it was his first one. And for a guy with this big a career, I always felt like he should have been in the Remco line, but knowing what I know now, I understand he wasn't. It wasn't possible for him to be in that line without something. But it's Dusty Rhodes Hasbro with the polka dots.
Oh yeah, that is such a figure, man. It really is, because it looks like Dusty,
it does
and
look like him.
Even though it's cartoonish, it still looks like Dusty more so than a lot of the other figures did. Like the Piper didn't really look like Piper very much.
Piper is terrible.
Yeah,
at least.
It is. I love the figure, but at the same time,
the figure.
Yeah,
but the new retro they did of that, it looks so much better.
Cool. Well, Dusty to me is, because I can see Dusty if you took like the Kurt Hennig face from the Remco line and you had like the hair from Buddy Roberts' hair. So if you took Kurt Hennig's face, Buddy Roberts' hair, then you took the body from like Terry Gordy or something, or
Crusher
Blackwell or somebody like that. That would have been a great Dusty Rhodes, that to me would. Yeah. But he should have been in the LJN line, and for whatever reason he wasn't. And I mean, I'm sorry, he should have been in the Remco line, but I guess he couldn't have been because AWA, they got.
Was he in Florida then, or was he in Georgia?
Well, he was in the NWA,
Georgia, right?
Yeah, so, but he would have been Georgia. Yeah, but I mean, Dusty was kind of one of those guys that was everywhere. He was in Championship Wrestling from Florida. He was in Georgia Championship. He was in Jim Crockett. I mean, he had been everywhere, and really he could fit in everywhere. But Dusty, to me, they missed the boat on that one. And Remco, if there would have been a further continuation of Remco, that's what we tried to get out of Steve. Was there ever any talks to go to Jim Crockett?
And he never. I mean, I don't think he. I think he just got to talking about everything else and just missed it. So.
I almost feel like it just maybe wasn't a thought that they had.
It probably wasn't. Yeah.
Maybe.
I think it could have been killer though, and maybe if they hadn't got Flair and the Road Warriors, maybe they would have kind of looked over.
Right. But it's just weird because, Flair had that past with Vern, which was his original. And then, of course, the Road Warriors were active in AWA at that time. They were just about to jump to Jim Crockett. So, it's kind of again, that you should, guys, if you have any further questions or thoughts on Remco, definitely go back and listen to our Steve Rosenthal episode. I'm trying to think someday if we make like an ultimate Remco episode where we, talk about more of the line and then we bring on the segments from all the guys that talked about it with us. But in the long run, though, with that being said, the Dusty Rhodes Hasbro is an incredible figure. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
So my number 4 is, again, you question. Yeah, what was that?
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. I got off my paper.
You're good. Go ahead. My number 4 is, again, you could question it, but I will stand firm on it that it is a pro wrestling action figure, is the original mail away Sergeant Slaughter G.I. Joe action figure.
That Joe's surrounded by cobras.
Yeah, but that Joe's Sergeant Slaughter. He's joined the G.I. Joe team.
So we're celebrating by giving away Sergeant Slaughter action figures, but you can't buy them in stores. You've got to earn them. Here's how.
Collect 5 Sergeant Slaughter certificates or call the number on the certificate, and Sergeant Slaughter will tell you how to get in on the action with only 4 certificates. There's a $1 handling charge. See details in specially marked packages.
G.I. Joe. Nobody takes on cobras better than Sergeant Slaughter.
Yeah, Joe.
Not the one.
Are you kidding me? This is my number 4.
Oh, that's your number 4 too.
To be honest,
Are you talking about the one with the USA?
The USA, the mail away. Not the one that came with the vehicle.
Right, not the camouflage pants with the black tank top. The one that was in the movie.
My name is Sergeant Slaughter, special drill instructor for G.I. Joe.
This is the original, the one that looked like his wrestling gear.
Yeah, and the one that they made a LJN type out of later.
They did make an LJN type, but again, this one to me, that's the thing about us. Y'all don't understand. We loved wrestling so much that we played wrestling with our G.I. Joes.
Got it.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
We probably would have done it with any action figure we had used as wrestling, but G.I. Joes were so bendable and moldable that you could literally use them as wrestlers. I mean, Road Pig made a great Sting, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
The Dreadnoks made good Road Warriors. I mean, you could do all kinds of cool stuff with them, but...
We probably had Daisy Duke as a valet.
Right. Yeah,
from the Dukes of Hazzard line. So.
Yeah, we did. I'm positive we did, and I still got a Bo Duke somewhere. I found him about 5 years ago. I think it must be. Yeah, but anyway, Sergeant Slaughter, G.I. Joe. I mean, tell me how cool, because then that led us down a path of the Refrigerator Perry coming out a little bit later after that.
Mention. He's getting mad. He's getting mean. He's breaking the line for the G.I. Joe team.
That's right, it's William the Refrigerator Perry.
The fridge is joined G.I. Joe.
And you can get a free fridge. Here's how.
Collect 5 fridge certificates or call the number on the certificate and the fridge will tell you how to get in on the action with only 4 certificates. There's a $1 handling charge. See details on specially marked G.I. Joe packages.
Watch out, Cobra. Fridge is coming through.
Go, Joe!
I was going to mention the fridge. Does he count as a wrestler?
No, I mean, kind of arguable, because he was in that WrestleMania 2 Battle Royal.
Well, I mean, he's just as much a wrestler as he is a G.I. Joe, I guess.
It's a good point, because he never really showed up on anything. But the fridge to me was so cool, because you could call that 1-800 number and listen to the hey. And I remember calling it and calling it and calling it, and then calling it one day it didn't work anymore. It was like no longer in service. But
they're like, quit it, kid. Well, you've heard it enough.
Lay off, brother. But yeah, to me, the Sergeant Slaughter original mail away G.I. Joe, that is my number 4. I love that action figure, and it's cool that it's your number 4 too. So
yeah, it's a 3 3/4 inch. It's got the USA tank top on. He's got the little, like, whatever you call that thing that he holds,
baton
Sergeant thing.
Baton, like,
yeah.
Yeah, and he even wrestled in that gear in AWA,
Right,
so.
Yeah. And he was perfect. It's just so cool that he got that opportunity, and that helped. Vince gave him his blessing from what I remember hearing about it. He was like, yeah, you got to do it. I mean, like, because they had an LJN that was going to come out, and I know I've seen prototypes and everything like that on it, but that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it was amazing and awesome, and just cool to see that kind of crossover of wrestling and G.I. Joe together. That was mind-blowing for us.
It's like our two loves at the time.
It was, man. And anybody, we love G.I. Joes. We collected G.I. Joes. We probably had as many G.I. Joes as about any person we can, other than the fact that we're still waiting for the aircraft carrier.
Come on, Dad. USS flag. Come on.
Where's it at? Oh, man. It'll show up one day, I feel like. But anyway, Sergeant...
Dad's like Clark Griswold and finds it in the attic or something.
in the poor farm. Somebody else found that.
Somebody else found it. That'd be terrible.
Yeah. Oh, man. We should just buy that house and, put all our action figures in it.
Or in a ditty bag. An itty-bitty ditty bag.
But anyway, yeah, that's number 4. So my number 3, since that was your number 4, right? I mean,
right. Yeah, go ahead.
No need to keep. So my number 3, man, these top 3 were tough, Jut. And I went with this one because I did not hold it as number 2 or number 1. And so my number 3 is a tie, and it's the same guy, but his 2 different action figures. And you could probably guess, but it's the Ric Flair Galoob and the Ric Flair REMCO. And I remember our Ric Flair REMCO had the white, robe and purple trunks, white boots, To me, it looked like Ric Flair. If you look at it, it ain't perfect, but it's a Remco sculpt. And then you had the blue trunks Galoob Ric Flair with the title belt. And to me, they're two great action figures of my all-time favorite pro wrestler. The only way they could have been number one, though, is because we weren't like childhood fans of Ric Flair. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
we hated him as a child.
Right. We hated him as a child. And then Galoob, when I would have started liking him a little more, I was a little out of action figures by that point. I was, girls were my thing at that point.
Give me hell yeah!
But we weren't playing with action figures as much. We were watching Young Guns movies and things like that.
Probably playing Little League and stuff like that.
Playing Little League, playing basketball, all that fun stuff. So, but yeah, the Ric Flair Galoob and Ric Flair Remco, I mean, it's a tie on those, although maybe the Remco is probably like 3A and the Galoob is 3B. I still feel like I love that Galoob a lot. I have him. He's one of those that, like you said earlier, you can have him on your shelf and he's statuesque. He's sitting on my desk right now and he's very statuesque, and it's just a Ric Flair standing right there, like saying what's up, and
yeah,
that's where I'm at on number 3. So I'm as excited to hear your 3 through 1 as I am to tell mine. So I'm going to go ahead and shut up and listen for your number 3 now.
So my number 3, again, if you've listened to the podcast enough, you know that this guy's one of our favorites, and we love his stuff and everything like that. It's the Galoob Blue Pants Original Sting, the Surfer Sting, whatever you want to call him, with the spike hair and the neon face paint, and he's got he's in pretty good wrestling pose. He's got his arms up, and you can do a lot of stuff with that. Whereas some of the poses for like the LJNs were a little more difficult to do anything with. I'm looking at you, Rick Rude.
Seriously.
Like that Rick Rude figure could be on my list if it was a better pose. But
right.
But we're talking about Sting here, and it's just a great figure. I'm sure it had to be Galoob's biggest seller at the time.
Oh, sure.
Had to be. With the way that Sting was presented and everything like that. And it just looks good. And there are other Stings in that set. There's an orange pants, and there's one where he's got like a jacket on. Yeah, that's a cool one too. The blue one just means more to me because we had it and we played with it. And I still have a version of it. I don't know if I have the one we had, but I've got it. So.
Right. And the colors of the figure, like
the face paint's good. Yeah.
Yeah. The colors, the blue pants, the face paint is just really pops, and the hair, and he had the rat tail, and it was just Surfer Sting at his finest. That was on my honorable mentions, and it could have been in my top 10, but I just couldn't squeeze him in anywhere without representing all the others. But, to me, Sting, I do think like before I did a podcast, before I started the Live and in Color podcast, would Steve Kern's Fabulous Ones have been on there? I don't know. Maybe not. But I do feel like confident in my top 10. One thing that's put me across the edge on the Sting was just I felt like I had to get Rick on there, and Sting to me was just secondary. But man, that Sting figure is really, it could have been 10B for me. Just a beautiful figure. That is definitely one of my high honorable mentions. So, yeah.
So, like we said, we've got so many honorable mentions, guys. It's not even...
Yeah, we're going to quickly go through them, though. We're not going to, maybe something will pull us off that. But anyway, so my number 2, I almost want to make you guess my number 2. But if you haven't heard him on the list yet, I think you probably know what my number 2 is. So I'll say this. I loved this figure longer than this guy was in the promotion. And he, to me, this figure possibly could be my number 1, if not for the number 1.
It should be your number 1.
What makes me think I'm going to end up number 2? Confidence.
Because of the amount of time that I played with him, enjoyed him. To me, it looked like the guy. And this guy was almost mythical to me because, we loved like He-Man. We loved the Barbarians movie, which, by the way, I have a copy of. I need to get to you.
Please.
Yeah, it's incredible, by the way. It still holds up. And if we need to do I don't know how we'll ever do a watch along of that movie, but we'll figure something else.
Hey, action movie guys, let us get out there and let's watch The Barbarian.
Seriously, guys, are y'all sleeping or what? Are y'all not hearing this? Yeah.
If y'all don't like that movie, then
yeah, we'll do it ourselves.
If you don't like that movie, then we're leaving the network.
I'm dealing with a lot of schleps.
Yeah, if you don't like that movie, we're starting our own podcast of action movies just to do that.
Exactly.
But anyway, so I loved we loved the gigantic muscle dudes. It was just something that every kid loved, the monster dudes, Ultimate Warrior, Sting, Lex Luger, Hulk Hogan, and all those guys. And this guy was that ultimate gigantic monster. But just, I even remember looking up his matches later on, and just there was one tape we had one match of his on against Big John Studd, and this is the Ted RCD LJN action figure. I know, bro. How can you ever say that a Ted RCD action figure is
that Ted RCD is getting mentioned in a podcast is pretty
well, I mean, hey, Ted RCD, I would love to have Ted RCD on.
Oh, I'd love to.
Yeah, and we'll think about that. We'll look into that because Ted has gone on to do acting in a lot of movies. He actually has a good amount of roles that he's played. I remember there was one movie he played. It was like on Law and Order. I think he played a landlord of a apartment that a murder happened in. I know he's been in some other movies that happened in Boston, New York, that kind of thing. But he was just this ultimate jacked dude. He replaced Ken Patera after Ken Patera had left. Vince always had a strongest man there. He always had a world's strongest man. And at the one time, Ted RCD was legitimately the ultimate strongest man because of the bench press that he did. But I mean, he always had those guys that were that one dude that was the Ken Patera, the Ted RCD, the Mark Henry, those kind of guys that were the strongest men. And to me, Ted RCD, he had probably a better career in world class. But, to me, the figure outlives the actual man. And the action figure looked like Ted RCD. That was the other thing. I felt like it was a great representation. And again, this is an action figure that the Sheik has gotten for me. And I mean, dude, it's such a great figure. It looks like him. And he's just massively monstrous dude, And
realistically, somebody who can look at it more, I liked the figure, but I didn't love it like you did. But I can look at it more and say it's a good-looking action figure. I mean, it legitimately looks good.
Yeah, yeah.
For the I don't know if they were expecting to push him more. I don't know what happened that they didn't. That they made such a fabulous figure for somebody who, realistically, you can maybe find one or two matches of his.
Right. That's a great point. Like I said, his action figure in my heart outlasted his career. And I was really tough on this because I was like, the Ric Flair Galoob, I didn't have enough good time with. I love the way it looks. The Ric Flair REMCO had a lot of time with, but I think he took a lot of punishment from the other.
He took some beatings.
He took some beatings. But the Ted RCD, to me, I just hold him in such high regard. It's funny. I don't know. And it's funny that you were the guy that weightlifted and not me. You would have thought like I would have taken, I did some when I was younger, but my only thing was I wanted abs. And once I got a 6-pack of abs, I was like, yeah, I'll keep that going, but, and then they didn't last very long because I only had them for like a year. But anyway, Ted RCD, to me, he's just like, he was like Animal. Animal was awesome, but I always loved Hawk. But yeah, it was just a thing that, every kid in the 80s loved the ultimate monster muscle dude. Ted RCD was not very tall. He does have some decent matches with Big John Studd. But again, I love Big John Studd too. Speaking of him, he's one of my honorable mentions in the LJN figure. I love Big John Studd. The only problem I have with that figure is he is crouching like he's kind of taking a dump. Yeah. I wish and that's one thing that Sin Bodhi did. If you look at Sin Bodhi, I highly recommend looking up Sin Bodhi, SINNBOHDI. Look him up on Facebook and look at his figures. He straightened Big John Studd's legs. So when he is facing the guys, he looks much taller like he should versus but I that's another person I could talk about all day is Big John Studd. I love that guy and his character. But when it comes down to it, number 2 for me, Ted Arcidi, LJN. What about you?
Love it. My number 2, and honestly, I think if I look at the LJN line, and the reason this guy is where he is, if I look at the LJN line as a collector now at my age, in the last 5 years of really kind of beefing up my collection, I think this may be one of the best, if not the best figure in the whole series. It's the one-man gang, LJN.
Yeah.
I mean, it just looks, it's got his size. It's got his, mohawk tattoos. It's got, I don't know. It's a great figure. I love it. I have it. It's that's a guy that you kind of think, what happened with him? He should have been one of these guys that, he won the first Royal Rumble, as we talked about,
right?
Non-televised. It was a house show.
Right.
But, it would have been great to see him maybe even have got the strap. To me, what would have been cool if somebody like him had taken the strap from Hogan and then Warrior beat him or something like that. That might have been the cooler go. But and
then Hogan.
Then would have missed out on Hogan Warrior. So
right.
I don't know.
But to me, I almost feel like King Kong Bundy, like it felt like, because the first he fought Piper, honestly, number 2 should have been against Piper as well, but in a singles match. But it was King Kong Bundy. And I almost feel like the random big guy for Hogan just went away because then, of course, you had Andre at number 3. And, to me, I would have loved to have seen the one-man gang get more. I love that character, but he put him with Akeem. That just, man, I mean, whether it was a rib on Dusty or whether it was just a thought to just do something with gang, I don't know. I mean, you can listen to the Bruce Pritchard podcast if you want to figure that out. I know they talked about it, but to me, One Man Gang was such a cool character, a cool gimmick. I mean, he was just like a giant road warrior if you think about it, know? I mean, did we have him as a kid or did you get him later on?
I got him later in life. I don't remember us having him as a kid.
Yeah.
He was kind of in some of that later series that were harder to find for us.
The Canadian run, or was it not? Yeah.
I know. I don't know. I think he may have been the series before that, but it was like, I'd have to look at him to see if, but because I don't think he has that. A lot of times in the later runs, they have that if they're like paint rubs off, you can see the color like blue or black or whatever underneath the whole like figures made of that color and painted over.
Yeah.
Some corners were cut in those later figures.
Oh, no doubt. Well, at One Man Gang, that's a very toyetic, beautiful action figure for sure. So I'm going to go ahead and say my number 1, and we may have the same number 1 or we may not, but
I might bet we do, but we'll see.
Well, so my number 1 is without a doubt the most important pro wrestling action figures to me, and possibly sparked a lifelong love affair with the business and the sport of pro wrestling, is the Remco Road Warrior action figures.
What a rush.
What a rush.
Yeah, what a rush. They, no question to me, they were the badasses of all badasses. Their action figures were so, it was just like, oh my God, these guys are from another planet almost, but they're so cool looking. They're so tough looking. They're so real looking. Animal had the red tattoo on his arm. Hulk had the perfect paint, and Animal had his paint and had the haircut, had the look, the pants, the chaps, just
Paul Ellering with the shirt.
the dog collar, to me, the number one without a doubt and number one with a bullet is the Road Warriors from Remco. So
number one also for me without a doubt means so much to me. It's, those are the Hulk Hogan kind of are the first in my mind of what wrestling figure do I remember first. I mean,
yeah,
either those or Hulk Hogan. I can't remember which one I remember first, but they both have long-term memory in my mind, and they were special. You always liked Hawk, so you played with Hawk. I always liked Animal. I played with Animal.
Yeah,
and we had Paul Ellering managing them against probably the Freebirds a lot of times or something like that. He might even joined in against the Freebirds.
Right. He did. And that was the beauty of it. But, to me, I remember the Christmas we went to our Aunt Jeanette's in Council, Virginia. Look it up on a map. If you don't know where Council is, look it up on a map. It's one of those towns that if you blink, you miss it.
You'll miss it.
It's more like a little community. But, we would stop at her trailer on Christmas, and we were at her granny's, and then we would go to her house and stop there. And then we would go to Marionetti's, where we would end up and then come back home. And that was our tradition for probably a good decade. And then, I remember we went to her granny's house, and then we always knew we were going to get some more toys. So we went to Jeanette's, and she had this for us, and it was the action figures of Hawk and Animal, and we had the LJN ring, and that was just heaven. That was probably, I don't know what else we got that year, but I know for a fact that probably was in contention for gift of the year.
Probably so, definitely so.
Yeah, and how she decided to pick those, who knows? If she just saw them and said, hey, this'll do and this'll do, whatever. Or did we say, hey, Road Warrior, whatever. I don't know if I even remember the Remcos existing, unless we saw them with our cousin,
Yeah, it's hard to say. I can't remember either.
But anyway, like I said, the Road Warrior Remco figures to me, and Steve talks about a funny story on that episode with Steve, how he was worried that they were going to kill him because they were going over a match, and he was trying to sign them to a deal. Yeah. I would love to have Steve back on just to break down how he went about getting each of the guys, because we kind of showed our cards that we were Jim Crockett heavy, but, what did he have to go through to get the rest of the guys? Or maybe they were all just AWA guys that had to do it, but
maybe there wasn't a choice. I don't know.
Right. But yeah, I mean, the Remco Road Warriors to me are without a doubt Desert Island. If you're going to a desert island and you had to take some action figures, those are the ones. So
yeah, absolutely. They'd be in my carry-on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's number one, and it's funny that you had the same number 4 as me and the same number 1. I know we've talked a lot about them in the past, but do you have anything else you'd like to say about the Road Warriors Remco figures?
Just and I think, I tell you, it's one of my honorable mentions, so I'll go ahead and mention it. The Hasbro Road Warriors, I love those.
Sure. Me too. Mine too. Yeah.
You get a different kind of look of them than you do the Remco, which makes it cool too.
Sure.
But the Remco to me just stand above it. They've got the
nostalgia element, and they just meant so much to us. And they were our first figure, or some of our first figures. So they mean, they kept us in as wrestling fans, and we played with those things to death. I mean, yeah, definitely did. And they were usually the winners in all the matches.
Yeah, I don't think they ever didn't go over. So
yeah, so we did reach number 1 here. I'm going to go over some of my honorable mentions, and then I'll let you. Okay, is that cool? So here's some of my honorable mentions. I'm going to kind of break them down by toy maker. So for LJN, I loved Roddy Piper, Big John Studd, Andre the Giant, the first one with the crazy hair, Macho Man, Terry Funk, loved that one, Bobby Heenan, and Hercules with the, Hercules gear gauntlet that he only wore a few times, YouTube, okay? And on the another one for me is the Remco Freebirds. Love that line. The 3 Freebirds, we didn't probably see a lot of the Freebirds wrestle. but when we did, it was cool because their action figures were there. You know, the original San Francisco toy makers, that one is one for me is the Bobby Eaton Blue Bloods line. I love that one. There's some cool ones in there. The Sting, there's a Macho Man, there's some others that are pretty cool. But to me, that one with the Bobby Eaton and the Blue Bloods, that I have that one. Thank you, Sheik. The Hasbro. Yeah, the Hasbro, I said it earlier, but Razor Ramon, LOD, Demolition, that was cool to have Demolition. I remember, we were never bigger fans of Demolition than we were the Road Warriors, but we did like Demolition. Right. And I remember having their Hasbros and really looking at them and like critiquing them and going over them. And I remember liking the Hasbro Demolition. And then, of course, Skinner, gotta love some Skinner. Again, representing Steve Kern on that one. Then, of course, Galoob, you said Sting. I brought that one up. Brian Pillman also.
Oh, yeah.
Was a very cool
with the Bengals trunks. Yeah.
The Bengals trunks, yeah, they just look so good. And the one that I'll never have because I don't know that more than one of them exists. But if I were to ever wake up and get a Galoob that I just truly desire, it's that Ricky Morton that I don't think happened past a prototype, right?
We're looking at you, Matt Cardona. You have it, so
you bastard. But and then probably Jakks superstar line is the Midnight Express and the Rock and Roll Express. And I've got a theory on that Jakks superstars line is the Rock and Roll Express. They mix the heads up because if you put the brown hair on Ricky and the blonde hair on Robert, you would see that they mix the heads up. And next time you get a chance, look at those figures, and their heads are definitely mixed up, in my personal opinion. So anyway, I owned those at one time, and now I can't afford to buy them back. So it's my life. But I needed the money, I guess, at the time. And anyway, so those are pretty much my honorable mentions. If I were to go with Mattel, I really like the first Macho Man they made with the pink trunks and the glasses. And, the Mattel line is beautiful. They're just a little too new for me. The original Road Warrior line, the LOD line they made was really good. The early ones that I remember, Ricky Steamboat, Terry Funk, those guys, as far as the Mattel. Now, they're making incredible stuff. Don't get me wrong. All their current stuff looks just impeccable. The ultimate elite. The more elite than the last elite, that kind of stuff. But anyway, what's your honorable mention, Sheik? We've got another eight hours.
Well, I'll try to keep it short. I probably won't go over too many of the ones I've already mentioned, but
yeah.
One that I've got that I just love, and I've got 3 or 4 copies of this because every time I see it on eBay at a good deal, I buy it, is the LJN Mean Gene Okerlund.
Oh, yeah. Great figure.
You needed that one to interview your wrestlers. I mean, why else?
You did.
Ken Patera LJN. I like that one. I'm looking at him right now. I've got him staring at me right now. He's definitely got the bodybuilder, power lifter, look, and he's ready to take on Ted Arcidi for the world's strongest man's. Just make sure to give him a cheeseburger at McDonald's if he asks for one.
Seriously, yeah. Crazy.
Roddy Piper, the They Live Hollywood Elite, Mattel. It's a great looking figure. It could be a little better to me. I could never find one, and I didn't pre-order, but I've ordered it several times when I saw a site have it, and they never ship it. So, and then they cancel my order and refund my money. So,
yeah,
there goes that.
Yeah,
Road Warriors Hasbro. I mentioned those great figures. The Triple H and Sting that you got, Little Sheik. It's a WrestleMania match. They're basic. They're not even the elite, but they're like the basic figures. But the way they've rubbed Sting's face paint off, like after for a post match look, is just impeccable for a basic.
Sure.
Let's see. The Hart Foundation LJN. Love those. I especially love the Jim Neidhart. The Bret Hart looks like Sylvester Stallone to me. I don't know. I thought they were just copying. He's got the Cobra look or something from the movie Cobra with Sylvester Stallone. But yeah. Neidhart looks great. He could have very easily been in my top 10. Bam Bam Bigelow, the Hasbro or LJN, love them. Jakks Classic Superstars, you were talking about those. I love that. I love that entire series. If it wasn't so expensive, I would go out and buy the whole series.
Yeah.
And just Power Town, I'm anxious to see. I'm really anxious for the Kerry Von Erich and the Bruiser and the Magnum to see how they turn out. That they look fabulous from what I've seen, and I think that got it all.
Yeah.
Oh, I've kind of got it. I may end up with this sooner than later, but I love the look of that No Holds Barred 2-pack with Zeus and Hulk Hogan that I missed out on.
Right.
So,
right. One day you'll have
one day, maybe one day.
Yeah. I have faith you can get it. But yeah, anyway, that's just, I mean, I just wanted to do this episode. We had some things lined up that we thought we might make happen, especially one show we were planning on making was Dave Milliken. And then all of a sudden, bloop, he shows up on the Jericho podcast. But so it's like, yeah, let's not do that one right now. So we're going to push Dave Milliken may get him at the end of March. But anyway, I'm really glad that we did this episode because it felt really like a no-brainer to do this. Plus, also, a lot of our listeners have been like, hey, I like the action figure stuff. Let's hear more about it. And again, a lot of our episodes, we don't really want them to go to 2 hours or more because to me, that just fatigues the listener. And sometimes, you can start to just think, oh man, this show's too long. Let's pare this down a little. So, with that being said, I think I'm going to shut up.
I think it's great. And I'm glad we did it. I'm glad you told you basically, when we were talking about everything, you're like, hey, let's do this. Yeah. I was like, good. Let's go. Let's do it.
Because, I mean, why not, right? I mean, it's right, wrestling. And you're the Plastic Sheik, so and
we've been meaning to do something with the Plastic Sheik anyway. So
yeah, and we've got more plans for the Plastic Sheik in the future. Trust us on that. So we just gotta get some things lined up and figured out exactly the path that we want to take with it. Some other shows, friends of ours or not, have kind of taken that lead on some things, and we want to make sure that we are representing the Sheik and doing things with fun with action figures too, because that was part of the promise from the start of this show. We would have interviews with wrestlers. We would have Jared as a host. Yeah. Those are my 2 promises. And then we would talk about topics and the what ifs, that series. We're going to have more of those, I promise. Here's the thing. I will say this. The what if episode is not something that Jared and I take lightly. We do not want to just half-ass it. We don't want to just read from Wikipedia and then BS our way through it. So the what ifs are something that we take very seriously. So if you don't see a lot of them all the time, that doesn't mean that we're not planning some. I think we've gone over that we have probably 8 to 10 ideas of what ifs. But the work that we put into what ifs sometimes is just a lot. So even though we're not doing one at the moment, it does not mean that you won't hear about it in the future. And it also does not mean that we're not planning it already. It's just we're not releasing them regularly because, like I said, we want our what ifs to be the definite question. We want to have a definite answer. We want it to be the ultimate,
We want to make you think. We want to make you, think, hey, that makes sense. It's good to hear that. That's a different perspective on it. I
never thought of that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, we've done 2 that have included Sting, and not all of them will. I think the next one we've got is going to really be a great one. So
only our next 10 will include Sting.
Yeah, only our next 10, and then we'll be done with him. But seriously, we do love Sting, and that's why they happen. But our next one is not going to include Sting. Our next one is going to be amazing. And our next one is going to be one that you've definitely asked what if for. And that we'll leave it at that. So anyway, I tell you what, let's take a break and we'll come back and wrap things up. Sheik, how's that?
Sounds great, man.
All right, be right back after these messages.
If you're a fan of rock music, I'd really appreciate it if you took a moment to check out my podcast. It's called the Decibel Geek Podcast. We've been doing it for about 10 years now. We talk about Kiss. We talk about Ozzy. We talk about Motley Crue and Guns N' Roses and Metallica. We talk about all the legends from the 60s and on, up to brand new bands that you should be hearing about today that you're not going to hear on the radio. It's Decibel Geek. Wherever you find your podcasts, you'll find us there. If you love rock and roll, I can almost guarantee you're going to love my show.
to the Monster Movie Stomp Down with me, Stompy, and my little brother Frank.
Hi, I'm Frank.
Yes, you are. So join us, Sludge, Mark, and Ruben as we review monster movies from all around the world.
And don't forget about the monthly contest and Trivia.
That's right, peasants. You'll find extra content like the Underdogs, Monster Mash Wednesdays, Friday Night Fights, each week exclusively on our Facebook and Instagram.
So please join us at the Monster Movie Stomp Down.
Your one-stop shop for monster movie reviews, interviews, news, contests, and of course, me, Stumpy.
And Frank.
And we are back with Greatest Pro Wrestling Action Figures episode. And I tell you, man, like we said earlier, this one was a long time coming. I'm glad we did it. It's something that represents not only our fandom, possibly maybe what created our fandom, it also represents the Plastic Sheik. So, y'all, if you love action figure episodes, let us know. Make sure it's, you say, hey, look, we love these, give us more, and we'll figure out ways to give you more. Whether we do it by company, whether we just do like a deep dive on the company, or whether we do, whatever. But long story short, we will make it happen. If you want more action figures, we will give you that. If you want more Plastic Sheik, whether you want him or not, that's going to happen in the future. But other than that, we just want to thank y'all so much for listening and sticking around with us. Very happy with the response to our previous episodes with Royal Rumble, Mount Rushmore, all that. We thank y'all so much for that. We're just having fun here, right, Sheik?
Absolutely. It's a great time to talk about wrestling, and hopefully you all enjoy listening to us talk about wrestling, and we welcome your feedback in whichever way you choose to contact us.
Yeah, exactly. And again, if you all have ideas that you'd like to hear us talk about on here, by all means. If you have wrestlers that you would like us to talk to, tell us on the Facebook page. Again, we are at GMBMPW. That's the Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling official Facebook page, Facebook group, Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff. At GMBMPW on YouTube as well. Just go subscribe. We've gotten a lot of cool people subscribing to us on there, and we're very happy with the response. But if you have not done that, go follow us, go like us, go subscribe to us. We can't thank y'all enough. We're trying our best to give you something, or an alternate take, or just a continuation of something for pro wrestling. And the name says it as it is. Give me back my pro wrestling. It doesn't mean that pro wrestling's gone, but what it means is we love it so much. It's a name to evoke nostalgia, right? That's what it is. So,
absolutely.
So with that being said, next couple episodes we've got coming up, I'm very excited about. I want to kind of say this. We've got the Crippler Jeff Daniels. He's a longtime wrestler from the Middle Tennessee area. He's actually from Louisiana, but he had a lot of good times in Middle Tennessee. I'm very excited for y'all to be able to hear that episode. That's going to be coming up as our next episode. And then honestly, the one after that, I'm going to keep as a secret, but it is going to be awesome. It's going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to be a bit of a crossover with a fellow podcasting person. We'll just say that. But that's going to be a lot of fun as well. Can't wait for that to happen. Y'all just stick around with us. Sheik, what are you thinking about the future, man? How you feeling?
It's looking bright, brother. We're going to have some good times here, and y'all buckle up and enjoy the ride.
That's right. So with that being said, thank y'all again for listening to the greatest pro wrestling action figures episode of Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling, and we'll see y'all next time with Jeff Daniels.
Don't forget,
fight action figures.
Action figure.
Action figures.
With a tear in my eye. This is the greatest moment in my life.
We'll see you later.
This has been a James Rock Street production.